In the frozen expanse of the Kolyma Gulag in 1952, the air temperature plunged to 40 degrees below zero, while the desperate prisoner Litvinenko stood in line at dawn observing the armed guards and planning his impossible escape. He labored relentlessly in a gold mine deep within the Taiga forest, breaking through the iron-hard permafrost with a heavy pickaxe, while his eyes remained fixed on the high wooden guard towers awaiting the perfect moment to flee. When a ferocious snowstorm blinded the guards under the cover of darkness, Litvinenko crawled beneath the barbed wire perimeter of the camp, ignoring the agonizing pain of the metal tearing into his flesh as he sprinted toward the vast and untamed wilderness. As the first light of dawn broke, he sought refuge in a small ice-crusted rock cave, attempting to ignite a fire with a single match while the merciless Siberian wind howled like a beast outside the narrow entrance. By the third day of his flight through the dense taiga forest, he navigated the towering pine trees with only a single piece of stale bread to sustain his strength, moving carefully through frozen riverbeds to mask his scent from the tracking dogs. A massive Siberian wolf emerged from the shadows of the forest floor, forcing Litvinenko to stand his ground with a sharpened piece of wood as he faced the terrifying reality of life and death in the heart of the frozen wild. He stumbled upon an abandoned hunter's cabin deep in the woods, where he discovered a small sack of frozen flour, which he cooked on a primitive stove, marking his first taste of a warm meal since the night of his liberation. The camp guards launched a massive search party across the snow-covered landscape using horse-drawn sleds, while Litvinenko watched them silently from high within the branches of a giant pine tree, barely daring to breathe. He was forced to continue his grueling journey under the pale light of the moon as the reflection of the Arctic stars shimmered on the endless blanket of white snow, turning the world into a haunting and beautiful landscape. Crossing the vast expanse of a frozen river, the ice groaned under his weight, with terrifying cracks echoing across the silence, threatening to plunge him into the freezing depths that would certainly claim his life. He fashioned a primitive snare from the fibers of his own clothing to catch a snow hare, consuming the raw meat in a desperate surge of survival instinct to replenish the energy he needed to survive the brutal cold. When another savage blizzard threatened to bury him alive, he burrowed deep into a drift of snow to preserve his body heat, while his eyes peered through a tiny opening to watch the stars, waiting for the storm to subside. Emerging from his snow tomb, he forged ahead into the rugged mountain ranges of Siberia, where the terrain became increasingly treacherous, and he began to question his own sanity in the absolute solitude of the high peaks. He discovered a long-forgotten dirt track once used by fur smugglers and followed the faint path with newfound hope as his weary feet carried him closer to the possibility of finding signs of human civilization. He stumbled upon a lonely shack inhabited by an elderly member of the Evenk tribe who offered him a warm bowl of tea as they communicated through silent gestures, marking his first human interaction after weeks of isolation. The old man revealed that a train station lay 50 kilometers away and gifted him a thick leather coat to shield him from the biting gale, while Litvinenko prepared for the final and most critical leg of his journey. Reaching the iron rails of the train tracks, he crouched in the shadows of a stationary freight car, waiting with bated breath for the mechanical roar of a locomotive that would carry him toward his final freedom. The old steam train cut through the heart of the Siberian landscape, while Litvinenko shivered in the dark cargo hold, constantly fearing that guards might search the train at any station along the long and winding route. As the train slowly approached the outskirts of the city of Irkutsk, he leaped from the moving carriage and sprinted toward the cover of the woods, his heart racing with the realization that the nightmare was coming to an end. Standing at the edge of the city, dressed in ragged clothes, he wept uncontrollably as the distant lights of civilization promised a new life for the man who had dared to challenge the impossible limits of human liberty.